everybody? This is episode 2 of Coordinated Chaos. We're back. We're going to do a little recap of week 1 and then do a little bit of a preview of some week 2 matchups. To start off, I'm just going to do what I'm going to call a little segment called Winners and Losers. Very simple. I'm just going to say who were the winners in week 1, who were the losers of week 1. And like I said, we're going to get into some previews, just two games in the upcoming week, and then, of course, we'll recap it after week 2. But just to start, so we got the first winner. We're going to go winner and loser, so forth. First winner of the week, obviously Thursday Night Football, the first game of the season. Bills smoked the Rams. Bills are huge winners in this week. I mean, they looked phenomenal. Not at one singular point during that game did I think the Rams were the better team. The Bills looked really good. They turned the ball over 4 times and still smoked them by like 21 points. So, I mean, going forward, the Bills are the team to beat, if not the second team to beat, between them and probably the Chiefs at this point in time. They just look like, those two looked way ahead of the pack compared to every other team in week 1. All right, next is going to be a loser, the San Francisco 49ers. They lost to the Bears. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt here. It looked like it was just a full-blown monsoon in Chicago. They couldn't really get their offense off the ground. Trying to incorporate, Trey Lance into that starting lineup and get him going was not. The rain just did not help that situation for them because obviously they wanted to probably get him a few, quick passes, get some completions before they started opening up the playbook a little bit, and they just couldn't get anything going because of how bad the torrential downpour was there. Bears capitalized on it. Justin Fields at the end of the game made a few big plays just to get them right above, the 49ers and take the win from them. But I think moving forward, the 49ers are going to be fine. I think Trey Lance is going to work himself into that role and be, fine, like I said, fine by the end of the season. Next one, we have a winner. The Eagles. Almost a moral loss, in my opinion, which is a really weird thing to say. But the Eagles win the game. The defense looked atrocious. They got smoked by the Lions offense, which you never want the Lions to drop 35 on your head at any point in time. I don't care if they were on Hard Knocks or not. The Lions were hungry. They came in. Gritty is their thing now, and that's the way they played. They scrapped and clawed their way back into this game after being down. I think it was like 31-14 at one point because of a pick 6 by James Bradbury. The Eagles' defense played well probably the first quarter and a half, and then from there it was just kind of like a leaky, a leaky pipe, man. It was just not good. The offense looked pretty good. Jalen Hurts looked pretty good. The O-line was giving up a lot of pressure, so it made Jalen Hurts have to run more than he probably wanted to. There were some times when Jalen Hurts did run before he probably should have as well, so he's still got some things to work on, but he looked good. He was able to get us first downs, get us, bail the O-line out in a lot of situations. So I'm looking forward to see how we match up with the Vikings. That's going to be a game that I'm going to preview at the end of the pod here. Next, we have a loser. That's going to be the Bengals. Coming off the Super Bowl, you would think they'd come into the season a little bit more prepared, but just like the Rams, I think they have a bit of a hangover. They thought they were going to come right into this game and just put on a show for everybody, but the Steelers had a different idea. Steelers defense still crazy good. Mr. Trubisky was able to make just enough plays, and they have so many weapons that at his disposal that they were able to make some stuff happen. O-line of the Steelers still looks really bad. Najee Harris couldn't really get anything going on the ground, and then he got hurt in the game as well. So we'll see going forward if the Steelers can kind of keep this momentum going. But the Steelers are one of those teams where you do not want to play them early on in the season because Mike Tomlin's always going to have them prepared and ready to go at the beginning of the season. It's really when the season starts going. If the momentum is good, they'll be good. But if they start losing some games, maybe they'll falter a little bit. But Mike Tomlin's still, that coaching record where he's never had a losing season is still upstanding. And I kind of want to see it continue because I really think Mike Tomlin doesn't get enough credit for how good he is. The next one, we have a winner, and that's going to be the New York Giants, which is something you don't hear often the last 4, 5, 6 years almost. Heard a crazy stat. Don't quote me on this, but I think this is what I heard. This is the first time the Giants have had a winning record since 2017, which is just a bonker stat. because they've essentially been, with them and the Giants, or them and the Jets, I should say, have been the worst two teams in all of football the last like 4 or 5 years combined. Just that New York area, other than Buffalo and upstate, has been atrocious in football. So we'll see if the Brian Daboll era gets off to an even hotter start and they can win, next week, or this upcoming week. But man, that was a game against the Titans where in years past with Joe Judge and with Shermer, all the previous McAdoo, all those other head coaches, they probably would have dropped this game. And Brian Daboll made a gutsy call to go for it and take the lead, and then it ended up going to the Titans having to make a long field goal, and Randy Bullock ended up missing it. So gutsy call by Brian Daboll. We'll see. I think they're headed in the right direction. I'm not completely on quote unquote that bandwagon just yet, especially since I'm an Eagles fan. I kind of hope it falters. That's neither here nor there, but they're looking like they are definitely going in the right direction no matter what. Next game, we have a loser. The Packers getting smoked by the Vikings. It's kind of reminiscent of last year when the Packers came out flat against the Saints. The Saints just whooped them last year. They did score more points this coming week one than they did last year, but it's really no excuse. Aaron Rodgers just does not have the chemistry with those young wide receivers and even some of the vets, but they're all pretty much new other than like Randall Cobb at this point. It looks like he's going to have to, make this whole group gel together quickly, or else things could probably get out of hand pretty quickly with the Vikings looking so good on offense, and their defense looked good too, but I don't know if that's a product of how bad the Packers offense looked as well. So we'll see, especially with the test this upcoming week, Monday night against the Eagles. We'll see if the Vikings and we'll see if the Eagles both are legit contenders. It's going to be a nice little heat check game for them. But yeah, Packers lose. I don't count them completely out yet. I think Aaron Rodgers can rally the troops and bring them back in contention. But we will see. It's going to be very interesting to see how that goes, how that progresses throughout the entire season. Next, we have a winner, the Chargers. They kind of picked up where they left off. They beat the Raiders. Raiders looked pretty decent. The defense is still quite a bit of a question for the Raiders. But the Chargers, really the only thing I have concern for with them is the running game right now. It didn't look that great. But Justin Herbert, man, is just such a stud. He makes things happen. He makes so many wow throws throughout the game that you just you can't help but be in awe of what he can do. So looking forward, especially this is going to be a game I preview at the end as well, which is Chargers Chiefs. It's going to be tonight. It's going to be a great game. Can't wait to watch that. But Chargers moving forward, I see them being very, very good. They just got to, tighten some things up here and there, and they'll be good to go. All right, next we have a loser, the Cowboys. This is something that has been, I feel like, brewing since the end of the season last year when Dak slid, when he probably shouldn't have. He thought it was going to be a headsy play against the San Francisco 49ers in that divisional game. And just the coaching decisions, the management, everything has been bad vibes for the Cowboys all offseason, especially considering they didn't really do much in free agency. They let a couple guys go like Lyle Collins, the right tackle. Now they're without Tyron Smith. They let Amari Cooper go, and now the receiving core looks very barren. CeeDee Lamb, I think, is a good player, but I don't know if he can carry that entire receiving core all season long. And then, of course, week one, they get just handled by Tampa Bay. The Cowboys defense looked really good. Michael Parsons is a beast. I hate the fact he's on the Cowboys because I love him as a player. He is unbelievable. But the defense can only take them so far this year because the offense looked so bad. The offensive line didn't look good. Dak didn't look good. Then Dak gets hurt in the game. Tore some ligaments in his thumb. Going to be out. I don't know. They're probably going to end up rushing him back in 4 to 6 weeks. They said initially probably 6 to 8 weeks on that thumb. So we'll see what happens. But Russell Wilson dealt with the same type of injury last year, rushed himself back, and then looked terrible because that thumb was not fully healed, I believe, at that point in time. So honestly, there's a chance this Cowboy season can be over before it even began, really. And that's just, I feel like, a little bit of karma. going towards Jerry Jones and the whole front office there, because they just chose to do some really questionable things this offseason. So it is what it is. Cowboys suck, kind of like they always do. So there goes their season, essentially, is what I'm saying. Now we got the next one. We're not going to go winner. This is going to be completely loser. We're going to get a little bit Debbie Downer with it now. Next loser is the Broncos. They completely pooped the bed. Just a huge letdown on Monday night. Russ's return to Seattle. I thought really the Broncos, there was like no shot the Broncos would lose this game. I was completely wrong. I thought they were going to smoke Seattle. Seattle had different plans, obviously, and Seattle was ready to play. I think the whole emotions of it all messed with Russ, because as soon as he come out of the tunnel, they booed him, which is something that I didn't see coming at all either, because, he's responsible. Not fully responsible, but a big part of a Super Bowl run or two with them, and should have been 2 Super Bowls in general, one. But they did not appreciate, I guess, the way he kind of got himself out of that situation. I don't really blame him for that. But it came back to bite him in the butt in week 1 because the Broncos just did not look really ready to play. The Seahawks defense was all over the place. The offense was just good enough to get it done. 17 points to win a game is not huge, but I expect Geno Smith to get more comfortable with that offense and still be just okay. He'll do good. I don't know how many games they're going to win, but if he can just get the ball to his playmakers, they're going to be okay. The Broncos, I think they are ultimately better than the Seahawks. They just had a bad first start. Nathaniel Hackett, the new head coach of the Broncos, made a very, very questionable decision at the end of the game there. They didn't call a timeout. They had multiple timeouts they could have called to kind of get it closer for a better field goal. Elected not to. After going up and it being a 4th and 5, you paid Russell Wilson all this money. You traded like all of your first-round picks for the next 15,000 years, and you decided to put the game in the hands of, or in the foot, I guess you could say, of Brandon McManus, and he missed it. He has a record of not hitting very many kicks over 60 yards. So, he's a good kicker in general, but man, to put that much pressure on a guy and make what would be tying the second longest field goal in all of NFL history, that's a lot of pressure to put on a guy week 1, just getting right into the season. I think everybody's in agreement that you should have just put the ball in Russell's hands and let him see if he can get a first down there and try to get a easier field goal attempt there. But Nathaniel Hackett will learn, I assume. I'm not going to put too much stock into this. I think they're still going to be a decent team. But that division is just too tough, especially with the way the Chiefs and the Chargers looked. So we'll see how that goes. The next loser is literally the entire AFC South. Everybody played the games in week 1 for the AFC South, and nobody got a W. Nobody got a win. Literally, the Jaguars lost to the Commanders. That was an interesting game. I thought the Jaguars were going to come out with a little bit more heat than they did. The Commanders looked actually pretty good. Carson Wentz kind of gave it to him, even though he still made some, Wentz-like mistakes with some interceptions. Houston and the Colts, who I picked to win the division, they played each other and they tied. And Lovie Smith made a decision at the end of that game to punt, essentially to run the clock out to secure the tie rather than going for it and trying to go win the game, which is just such a boneheaded Lovie Smith type play or like just decision in that spot, which is why he hasn't had a NFL head coaching job in years, and now he finally got one again and is still making weird decisions as a head football coach. So that's weird. The Colts did not look as good as I thought they would. Matt Ryan looked very questionable. Looked like he had oatmeal for brains at times. So I don't know, man. I don't know how that whole division is going to pan out. I still think the Titans could still end up being the winner of that division, but I think it has to come down to the Colts and the Titans at the end of the day. Even though the Titans did lose to the Giants, the Titans, I think, just need some time, kind of like how Aaron Rodgers needs time with his new receiving core. So does Ryan Tannehill with that new receiving core. A lot of new pieces there. So we'll see. They still got Derrick Henry in Tennessee. They're going to ride that as much as they can, essentially. But yeah, the AFC South, man, everybody lost, essentially. I mean, a tie is just a cool loss. I don't know how else to describe it. But that's essentially all I got for winners and losers, that segment. The next thing here, I'm going to go ahead and preview Chiefs and the Chargers. This is this Thursday night football game. What a great week 2 matchup for us to see where everybody kind of like stacks up in the AFC West there. That is going to be such a fun game, man. The only reason I say this, I think the Chiefs are going to win the game. The only reason I say that it won't be like basically neck and neck, the reason I gave the Chiefs the upper hand here is just because Keenan Allen is out for the Chargers. But am I going to be shocked if the Chargers win this game no matter what? No, not at all. But the Chiefs, man, they looked so good in week 1. It was the most calm and patient I've seen Patrick Mahomes operate an offense in like a couple years. He was operating the offense like it was death by 1,000 paper cuts. He was taking what the defense gave him and then taking the shots when it presented itself. And he still didn't even connect on all the shots that he threw out there. He was just a bit off on a couple big bombs to McCole Hardman. So if those would have connected, man, he would have had an all-time record type week 1. I mean, he could have literally ended up having 7 touchdowns in that game, but he ended up with 5. Ooh. But yeah, so Patrick Mahomes looked crazy. Justin Herbert, like I said, and the winners and losers segment there, he looked really good still, just coming off of that great season last year. So that's just going to continue. It's going to be a great head-to-head matchup here. Like I said, I think Chiefs are going to end up pulling it out. I think they're just a little bit more of a complete team, and they have a little bit better chemistry, I believe, than the Chargers do. The Chargers are still very young. So we'll see what happens there. But, man, those Chargers additions on defense, we're going to see if the Chiefs O-line can hold up like they did in week 1, where the Cardinals just couldn't really get to Patrick Mahomes very often. But, yeah, so that's going to be the first preview there. Chiefs probably going to get the dub on Thursday. That's what I'm predicting at least. The next game I'm predicting or previewing as well is going to be Monday Night Football, Eagles versus Vikings. I'm going to be live at this game. I'm going to be leaving North Carolina here on Sunday. Going to fly up and watch the Monday Night Football game there in Philadelphia, season opener. I need to see A.J. Brown score a touchdown in live action in the link. If that happens, my eardrums may explode. We'll see, but it's going to be a crazy vibe. It's going to be nuts. It's going to be loud. I can't wait. The problem's going to be the Vikings looked really good. That offense looked crazy good. The defense looked improved. The Eagles' defense looked very suspect. The Eagles' offense looked good. We're going to see, how these teams stack up here. I don't know. I hate to do this, but it is what it is. I think the Vikings are probably going to end up winning this game, which is going to be a shame considering I'm going to be traveling all the way up to Philly just to watch Justin Jefferson gritty all over us for 4 quarters probably. But basically, as long as the Eagles don't play defense like they did in Detroit, I think as long as the defensive coordinator, Jonathan Gannon, can make some adjustments and see what he did wrong in week 1, we're going to be okay. We're not going to have Justin Jefferson going for 184 and 2 touchdowns like he did against the Packers. The Packers, if you have seen any of the clips on Twitter or anywhere, if you've seen some of the things the Packers did against them on defense, where you had Preston Smith lining up against Justin Jefferson in man coverage, like, what were they thinking? Like, I don't really understand any of that at all. So that was really suspect. But basically, as long as the Eagles aren't complete morons, I don't think Justin Jefferson is going to go absolutely berserk, but he still can. He has the ability to do it. Kind of hedging myself here. I have Justin Jefferson in a fantasy league. So if he does go crazy and take a dump on my Eagles, win-win for me, really. But, best case scenario is he goes for a lot of yards, goes for a couple of touchdowns, Eagles still win the game. I'll be a very, very happy camper. So that pretty much does it for the recap. I didn't do all the games. I didn't talk about all the teams. I'll probably get around them, a lot more of them, as the season progresses and as, some teams start making some noise. I think going forward, I'm just going to hit on some of the bigger topics and stuff like that as we go along in these podcasts. So basically, that's going to do it for episode 2. I appreciate you guys tuning in. Follow us on all our socials. We're on TikTok. We're on Instagram. We're on pretty much every, so Twitter. Shout out once again, Weston, my guy, editing and doing all the work for this podcast. He's the man. And we will see you next week. Peace.